So we're going to be talking about abundance mindset, which is very hard to master. I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat it and this and that. But there are magical things that I've accomplished in my incarnation. And I've been lucky to be around people, like, well, relatives, literally, who had the Midas touch. And seeing how the mind is so, it's actually what prevents people from succeeding. It's funny, isn't it? You'd think the mind would be your ally, but when it's actually your jailer, your instigator of failure, because of the fear aspect involved with the mind. And the mind is so often respected for its logical approach. And logic and cynicism is fear. And you're going to say to me, well, what about mathematics? We're talking about life here, and we're talking about the universe. And we know mathematical equations based on a 3D perspective of reality. That's about it. But to quantum leap out of 3D, to create the world you want to live in, right? To not be trapped, you got to go high frequency. You can't do the old 3D game against the 3D game, because you're going to fucking lose. Because the 1% has mastered it. They've created egregores through the subconscious of the collective mindset to keep us enslaved, mentally enslaved. They have created fear factors again and again to make sure that we were, completely discombobulated, turning around in circles, not finding our footing purposefully, one thing after another, and this has gone on thousands of years. And so this is why, and I keep saying, I kind of repeat myself, but one of the things I do understand about human nature, and that includes me, is that quite often you have to say the same fucking thing 1,000 different ways. That's why you'll see teachers out there saying the same shit, but with a different point of view, using a different tone of voice, using a different analogy, a different parable, a different way. Because the brain, okay, this 3D little monkey we have in our head is stubborn as fuck. And when it does not want to, when she doesn't want to listen, it won't listen. It won't budge. It just won't. I'm going to give you an example. I was telling a friend of mine, Andromeda Flame as a matter of fact, and I was telling her that I was talking to a client last night, and she was telling me that she could not meditate at all. Her monkey mind, of course, we know what the cause is. And she had the way I talk to people about meditation, it's mind-blowing. Some people have a perspective that they have to be in absolute silence. Fucking good luck. You'll never be in silence. Not in the consciousness you're at now. Now, at some point, can you have seconds, 20, 30, maybe even a whole minute, or maybe 2 of silence? Yes, but it will take years of meditation. So this client was saying, yeah, I can't do the 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, we're doing it now. What? We're doing it right now. We're doing 5 minutes. And that's what we did. 5 minutes. I said, don't talk. 5 minutes. Ask me questions after. 5 minutes. I've given you the instructions. You know what to do. Boom. We're on the clock. And we did it together. And when she was done, the irony of ironies is she said, well, that's really easy. I went, uh-huh. And she went, well, I can do this every day. I go, uh-huh. And she said, yeah, I can do this. This is not a problem. But you see, until I sat with her for the 5 minutes in her mind, because the monkey mind had convinced her of what to expect from a meditation, she could not and did not until I sat with her for 5 minutes. And then suddenly, what seemed absolutely impossible became possible. Why am I saying all this? Because the monkey mind will fuck you over on the smallest, most seemingly simple things, tasks, and you will fail because your monkey mind says so. Your monkey mind will sabotage you. Now, when you're not in alignment with your life or whatever, when you are in your young years, you will get sick, a car accident, your back will, you'll throw out your back sneezing, stupid shit like you'll twist your ankle falling down the stairs, shit. You'll be like, what the fuck is this? But the universe is actually saying, listen, you're not listening. So because you're not listening, we're going to give you a tower moment and you're going to be bedridden or you're not going to be able to work but we're going to give you some time to get your shit together because you're not going to take it on your own. So we're going to actually create a situation that makes you ill so that now you're bedridden or, with a twisted ankle, a knee issue, a hip issue, whatever, however, right? And when that happens, you have to see the grace in action. And what's interesting to me is that you listening right now on this live and you listening after it's recorded and uploaded on YouTube, right? You're taking it for granted that you get these concepts. You're actually listening to me and it's resonating. Something inside of you is saying yes, or else you would have scrolled by now. And what's interesting is you don't understand how powerful that is to understand with ease what I'm saying. With ease. You're not second guessing this shit. You're being reminded of it because you already know this. Isn't that extraordinary? And so you forget that the average person, they think that you and I are talking fucking mumbo jumbo. Gibberish. We sound like idiots to them. Airy fairy, unicorn Sarah. And yet, magic is where reality begins. And so if you think your life is gray and dooms and all gloom, then, and if you're afraid of something bad happening to you, your fear is so potent that it will actually manifest the very things you most fear. That's why fear is either, as I've said 100 million times, it's either your ally or your jailer. And if it's your jailer, it will manifest things you absolutely fucking don't want because you see fear as a massive emotion. It's as powerful as gratitude, excitement, euphoria, bliss, joy, laughter. It's as powerful. And so when you allow negative emotions to take root, and it's funny too because I'll tell my clients, listen, I want you to do this mantra. Om Namah Shivaya, right? Shiva, the destroyer of blocks. Om Gam Ganapatiye Namaha, Ganesh, the destroyer of blocks, or the badass bitch, Kali, Durga actually. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha, right? Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. I remember fucking chanting that for a half hour in my car because I was having some challenges. And it was very satisfying to chant that one, to articulate it out loud. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Sounds like a fucking tribal war cry, right? And so when you chant, you block out the monkey mind's chattering, fucking negative, self-sabotaging internal dialogue. And I've had clients say, well, how long I don't know, how long should you chant? Until your fucking monkey mind stops talking. That's how long. Hours. Yes, hours. Days. Why? Well, because I'd rather you chanted for hours. And I've done it. And I've talked about it on many lives. It's not like you don't. Some of you follow me and you're very loyal and I love you for that. And I feel honored that you follow me. But some of you guys don't know me. So I'll say this. When I drove across 3,000 miles coast to coast, I chanted out of a 12-hour car ride, 6 hours, 7 hours. in my head out loud, because better that than the monkey mind. Because when you put yourself in a high vibration, a state of mind that is infinite in its understanding that nothing is impossible, absolutely fucking nothing. And it's sad too, because though I say this and I believe in it with all my heart, I know, and I probably had to live through this myself to tell you, that I know for a fact that the epicenter of our problems is the silent vibration, like a low hum we barely hear, of self-loathing, of not feeling as if we're deserving, as if we're feeling as if we're not ready to come out in our light, in our abundance of love, health, and wealth. I have sat with clients saying, if your twin, and I'm going to give you that as an example because that's going to hit you. If your twin came to you and said, let's go, pack your shit, I'm fucking taking you, we're going to do it. We're going to do all of it. I'm going to get married. We're going to have babies. We're going to try. We're doing it all. Are you ready? 50% of my clients have said, no, I'm not. Aha. And yet you grieve the fact that you're in separation. And yet, if your twin called you right now or drove up to your house right now, pack your shit, baby, I claim you as mine. Claim me as yours. Let's do it. You wouldn't do it. They would not do it. Similarly, there are people who have written brilliant books, painted brilliant pictures, created brilliant businesses in their minds or on canvas, and will never release the idea of the business or the work because they don't feel it's good enough or it's ready. Sabotage. And part of the reason why some people are at that point is because of shyness, in some cases, of feeling ill-prepared, of feeling like they need to learn a little bit more. Some of the things I've studied about materially successful, because there's a difference between being materially successful and spiritually successful. They're not the same concept. Spiritually successful people, abundance or magical things happen to them. And they're still kind of refining who they are in this human experience, in this particular incarnation. And they're excavating other things. But the universe will always provide for them in some way, in some miraculous way. Financially successful people don't believe they'll ever lose, and they fully know that they deserve it, and even more than that. And I think of famous people that you probably wouldn't even relate to, right? But one of the things that I'm going to share with you is Anita Roddick. Anita Roddick was a woman a British woman who opened the first body shop in the 1970s in London. And her premise was to buy shea butter and wooden bowls and all kinds of raw materials, from indigenous women around the world, giving them some kind of cottage industry. And she would sell their products, their raw materials, in her body shop. One of the premise was that you had to donate to work for the store. You had to donate some of your time to doing volunteer work. And so because her idea was a heart-based business, it went global. And then it was bastardized. She died of cancer, by the way, on the side note. And it was bastardized. As you know, I wouldn't walk into Body Shop if you put a pew-pew in my head because it smells like chemicals. They took something that was pure and they turned it into bullshit. But the original idea of the business was for the greater good. And that's sustainability. That ability to look at what can I do for others. This business that I want to start, yes, I'm a woman. Can you imagine starting a business in the 70s as a woman? Good luck. But she did. And her idea was, how do I help other women who are stuck in impossible marriages because there is no money to leave? So how do I help women be independent, have their own money, their own little cottage business? How do I do that? And because she was thinking of the greater good, she was given all the abundance and the material in the material world. Okay? And so when you decide to become abundant in the material sense, you're not going to win in this particular timeline being greedy. And you might say to me, well, what about Elon Musk? And what about Trump? And what about these? And that. It is a dying, dinosauric attitude. In fact, the reason why all of these people are in our faces, smashing their pies in our faces with their avarice, is for us to finally see it front and center for what it is. It is not something to be admired. Their ways of making that kind of success, quote unquote, is a dinosaur, and it's dying and it's dead. It won't survive. It won't survive the new earth. It's not a match. They will not cross over. They cannot. Their frequency is an absolute mismatch. Their frequency is more in line with the world, what I call the Mad Max society, if you know anything about Mad Max. Okay, that's they're aligned with that. And it's a brutal, barbaric way of, taking Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan type of bullshit. And no one wants it. So when you deal with your idea of failures, right? Meaning you started a business that failed. In your mind, it failed. The question isn't that you're a failure. The question is, was it a business that you thought was a logically good idea? Was it a business that you were excited about and you couldn't, you couldn't go to sleep because it was so fucking exciting? Did you do something did you choose a business that was based on logic and what you thought made sense? Or did you do something that you thought would be exciting and kept you up at night? Was it a passion project? And even passion projects that in your mind, in your friend's mind, in your family mind, don't bring you $100,000. All right, let's say it doesn't. Just fuck it, it doesn't. But you wrote your book or you started a business and within a year you decided that it was no longer worth pursuing. What did you learn? How did you refine your craft, your message? Maybe your shyness finally gone. Having become more powerful in the way you communicate to the public. And it's interesting. I'm going to give you an analogy of books, of writers. And I forgot where I read this, but they said that, and who they are, I can't give credit to, and it made sense to me. They said you have to write 7 fucking books before the one hits. They actually say in sales that you have to call someone, a business that you're trying to get business from, 7 times. You need to get 7 no's before you get the yes. So the magic number is 7. And for the fuck of it, I'd add 9 times. So there you go. So the first call, the second call, the third call, the fourth call, the fifth call, no. Keep going. And the difference between people that are not materially successful and those that are is that they do not take no for an answer, and they fucking are masters as following up. And that's it. Masters at following up. Bouncing back from no's. Rejection is your protection. Rejection refines you. It refines your message. It hones you. The projects I created in 2012, 2014 are not the projects I would create today in my mindset. Not fucking at all. These projects were created before I ever did ayahuasca. Right there. Just right there. That's a massive, whoa, 180. And so I wouldn't create that, or I wouldn't write it that way. I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? It changes, it shifts. And I'm going to again use the analogy of an author. I'm not the only one that thinks that way. Most authors who have written even their bestsellers wish they could go back in and rewrite it, because 20 years later, after writing the bestseller or whatever, they feel like they could improve on it. One of the traps that is a problem is when you are a perfectionist. And that will actually destroy the steam, destroy your pace, and destroy your ability to actually birth something. So sometimes you deliver something that is not fully perfect, but it has your full passion. And sometimes that's enough. Perfection is impossible, to be honest, because your idea of a perfect painting isn't mine. Your idea of a perfect book isn't mine. My idea of a perfect house isn't yours. My idea of a perfect meal isn't yours. Hence why perfection is not a collective agreement. Thank you, my love. Do you see? So your idea of perfection is actually the noose around your neck. And what you deliver to someone like me or somebody else, we could think your poetry or your prose is masterful, and you would have been looking to rewrite it for 100 fucking years. So passion sometimes is, well, quite often, more important than perfecting your product. Because you're going to make some urgent moves, not impulsive, urgent, passion. And you're going to learn from what could have been done better. And you're going to actually punch yourself in the arm congratulatory and say, wow, that's even, you'll have to admit, wow, I can't believe I did. That's fucking brilliant. And you'll actually congratulate yourself, which is good. You should. Fear is the very reason why we have 99% of the planet strung up in static energy. And out of that 99%, we might have 0.05 trying to make it happen. With integrity, holding on to moral values, holding on to the greater good. Why do I want to write this book? Why do I want to become viral in this video? What is my message? What kind of services do I want to provide individuals? How can my experience heal others? How did my addiction, and now I'm recovered for 10 years, or I was homeless, and here I am standing on my own 2 feet, about to buy my first house, or now I own my third. How do I help? How does my message help the collective? If you're not asking that in a 369 journal, if you're not asking yourself that in just your own musings, like, what should I do? What kind of business? What should I promote? What is the greater good to the collective? Always ask that. It's not kumbaya, Miss America bullshit. It's real. It's like a spiritual tithing. If I write this book, is it going to help save people's consciousness? If I open this restaurant, how will my energy, vibration, music that I have, as ambiance, how is that going to help? Seriously, I'm not being funny. One of my last jobs, just so you know, is I had in our cafe high frequency music playing on YouTube channel. I kid you not. 999 hertz, 1111 hertz, with these amazing kaleidoscopes. Can't talk, it's late. Kaleidoscopes. Dr. Joe Dispenza's 432 hertz kaleidoscopes, for example. And other people splicing, taking his kaleidoscopes or other ones and creating a whole 3-hour situation, like a pastiche on YouTube, on a big screen, in a cafe. Imagine having a cappuccino listening to that. Imagine when I taught my barrister how to make a cardamom latte. Okay? They'd never seen it, done it, whatever, with using almond milk or coconut milk instead of soy, right? So why? Why did I do that? Or why does one do it? To change the vibration. And I remember getting the kombucha guy to come in and bring us a kombucha machine and empty kombucha bottles, 1 liter that people could buy. And people were coming in. So it became a neighborhood cafe with these really cool drinks with a high frequency music at 7 o'clock in the morning, grabbing their kombucha or latte or both and their croissant. And it wasn't my business, by the way, but I was running it as such. And so when you ask yourself, what you want to create, what if you wanted to do a food truck? And you had Groovy Tuesday, and everyone wore hippie shirts, and you had some 1960s music or high frequency music, and all your meals had names like Ninth Chakra Powerhouse and Sixth Chakra, I'm just making shit up, right? Heart Chakra protein drink and stuff like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're bringing language into the common man's realm. And you're changing the way people think 1 second at a time. Influencing them without them knowing. Because they're not coming back because you've got this incredible heart chakra protein drink. They don't care about the name at first. Anahata chakra drink. They're coming back because the drink is amazing. They get a blast of energy and it's all natural and it tastes amazing. And then one day, because they're so invested in the drink, suddenly now they're asking you, what does that mean, Anahata heart chakra? What is that? And then you tell them. And because you're friendly with your clients, you have their cell phone, they have yours, and guess what? You're sending them links. And before you know it, you're becoming a mentor, a teacher to clients who first met you because you were selling them drink out of your fucking food cart. That's my point. Nothing is too small. No idea is dense. No idea is wrong. But you have to ask yourself, how can I influence? How do I bring people? How do I help? How am I in service? I want to thrive. I want my family to thrive. But this me generation is no longer going to thrive. It cannot sustain itself. As a matter of fact, the jig is up. So that's what we're all coming to see. We're realizing that truth. And we have to be honest with our own desires and why. Oh, hey, Andromeda. The vibration of faith in and surrender to the universe and love for the collective equals magic formula. Yeah. And when things happen because it can be frustrating, okay? Because what happens when you're trying to excavate a new life, a new truth, a new existence. I'd say every 7 to 10 years, excavate a new life, a new truth, a new existence. I'd say every 7 to 10 years, you go through a new cycle, and it could be a cycle that physically challenges you or emotionally challenges you, or I don't know, both, And as you get older, people that you love die, and that'll fuck you up in the head. And that's okay. But I feel as if we are being really pushed to create communities The internet is great, right? It was a great start. It really taught us a lot about how many of us actually agree on many, many things on a spiritual aspect. And yet we're all spread out all over the world, and how maybe now it's time for the tribes to gather physically. Okay? It's time for the tribes to gather physically, to support each other. Because when you're a starseed, and from the time you were aware of your existence as a 2-3-year-old, right? Let's say, you came into awareness of yourself and realizing you didn't belong, and then looking up at the stars, realizing you missed home, and not being at that age yet, or maybe you did, not really being able to articulate that incredible homesickness, right? And so now here we are, but we're spread too far. And so it's time. It's time for us to gather together physically, to build, literally build, buy land, invest, land next to each other even, like literally, start using the internet to gather tribes, lost soul tribes, people into your daily realm, into like Telegram groups and Zoom calls and things of that nature, and deciding, even if it starts with only 5 people or even 4, and where you guys all agree to buy land next to each other, right? Let's say. And the rest will come. More and more you'll expose what you do to the world, and a few that are a match to your vibration will be attracted to you and to what you're doing with your group, and they will come. And more will be built. Because you guys are way too sensitive to keep doing this shit alone. You're way too, because you guys are way too sensitive to keep doing this shit alone. You're way too sensitive. This has been a very, very painful, lonely journey for many of you. The conversations that you're having with people are at best trite. Hopefully you have some good doc holidays. You got at least 1 or 2 in your realm, in your group. But if you don't even have that, then you need to, shake the tail and start fucking making shit happen. We have a esoteric book club that's very helpful to people. We're actually going to do Women Who Run with the Wolves tomorrow at 2:00. And there was a collective question that one of our beautiful sisters, Jennifer, came up with. And we're to open the book with that question and see where we land, each individually, and share where we land on the pages of Women Who Run with the Wolves. The book after that's going to be Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, I believe. I'm pretty sure. And so my point is, do something like that. I'm not for everyone, trust me, and I am fully aware, as it should be. Just like not everyone likes chocolate. Hello. You're not supposed to, but make an effort to be a leader. And what's interesting is that most people don't want to lead. Trust me, neither do I. But I'm always talking to my team, Andromeda and Jennifer, about the rounds, the Knights Rounds table. It's always a round table conversation with everyone in these groups. We do not want, our biggest concern, our biggest fear is cultish behaviors, which in some groups is inevitable. There's a hierarchy that starts developing, and it's sick. Now, the Native Americans and the Druids would look at the most wise, but there was always a collective agreement. In other words, the round table philosophy was always present, even in those cycles who were healthy. We're not talking about toxic situations. We're talking about healthy situations. And there is nothing, when we talk about hierarchy, it is not based, could be 19 and have been born with incredible scientific knowledge from past lives and knows how to create windmills to capture electricity and energy through the power of the wind. They might be in a 19-year-old body, but they're millions of years old, and they have come in to help the community, for example. And then you will have an elder who also in their own right has something else to offer, maybe psychic energies, but also the memory of what was for 75 years on this earth. In other words, they know how things were in the 60s and 70s, and they can use that wisdom to tell the younger generation, no, it wasn't like that before. They're fucking lying, and they're ripping the pages of that history and that truth out of the history books. But I remember because I was there. And I know what that looked like and what was going on then. And what you're being taught right now is a fucking lie. So elders are always important because they give you a perspective of what was in the past, in the recent past, like let's say 75, 80 years, to what you're being told today. And that is very important so that you don't repeat mistakes as a new generation. And these things should be recorded. It's funny because they're showing me a scene from Logan's Run. It's a very important movie. Watch it. It's very campy, 1970s. Logan's Run. Michael York is in it. He's in the movie. Watch it. It's very campy, 1970s. Logan's Run. Michael York is in it. He's a British actor. And Farrah Fawcett, believe it or not, I think it was one of her first pictures or whatever. But it's about people in a society. They're in a hydrodome of some kind. And people have to die at the age of 30. Period. That's just how it is. At the minute they have crystals on their palm of their hands, and the crystal is in, I think it's in color if I remember. It's been years. I mean, I'm talking about almost 30 years since I watched it. But in the palm of their hand is a crystal, and if it turns white, it means you turn 30, and it's time for you to turn in and do a culling. And it's like set up in a spiritual way, right? It's, woohoo, ta-ta, all that bullshit. You're being hustled, right? And there's a scene towards the end where they see their first elder, a man with wrinkles. He's probably 80. And they're fascinated. And he lives in a dilapidated old, you could say it's a New York library, New York City library, right? If you've ever seen that library, it's fucking extraordinary. But anyway, and it's been maybe 500-600 years later. But he is an old man with cats. And watch that movie, because it says a lot about how we value youth above all. And what's the sad part about youth, and it is sad in a way, is youth lasts maybe, and what I mean by youth is 18 to say 35. That's it. After that, you're getting older. And there's no skating backwards on that one. It's a reality, right? It's nothing to be afraid of. And then there's death, and people are terrified of death. I did a video just now, a couple hours ago, you can check it out, on death. And I always jokingly say, I remember saying that to my mom, because, there's that fear. And I say it to myself, by the way, I've done this millions of times. I'm good at this. I'm really good at this shit. And I've always survived it. And so that's where you need to kind of have a sense of humor about that. You can't make shit imprison you into a place, a state of mind that is riddled with fears and anxieties that you create. You're the one creating it, right? Or you're eating up propaganda programming that is creating more anxiety within you and your body. And you're freaking out. And that is something you cannot accept. You own yourself or you don't. It's really your decision. And it is a constant in the beginning. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a battle. It is a battle. Many of us have gone through multiple dark night of the souls until one dark night of the soul almost took us out. And those of us who survived that final dark night of the soul, and I mean it, I'm not kidding, I'm not being funny or coy. Those of us who survived that dark night of a soul, we will never look back. It was an alchemical shift in our whole entire cellular spiritual being. We plugged into the one, the creator. We plugged into that consciousness of duty to ourselves, to our own soul contract, and to the collective, the greater good. And we are constantly refining in our minds, in our hearts, what and how much we can share with those that are still learning about the nature of reality. And the nature of reality is so fucking dense. It's so entrenched in us because, remember, we have been living in amnesia for probably 1,000 incarnations, easily done. And because of that, we have a hard time in even believing in the signs given to us by our guides, the light beings, the ones who've always watched us, protected us, and walked beside us in some cases, from the time we were made. And they sent us signs, and we still don't believe. Because we'd rather be cynical and miserable, because I've never seen a cynical person that was happy. Never. Ever. The people who laugh, who have joy, believe that the universe is their ally, their friend, their beloved. And they expect magic. Not with arrogance, not with entitlement, but with the joyous, magical mindset of innocence, of a child that thinks that the world is safe unless it's gone through massive trauma at a very young age. So, to manifest well is you have to either become something you would not like in the end. A great movie to watch if you want. Oh man, I just went blank for a second. I'm trying to remember the movie. It's not meant to, okay, it's not meant to be, but it's a Vin Diesel movie about selling stocks illegally, stocks that don't exist. It's based on The Wolf of Wall Street. However, I think those movies suck, no offense. That movie, I'm trying to remember it, was mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And it is that avarice, evil, take all, no prisoners type of attitude that is no longer in alignment with the planet. And the new way is the way of, and Michael Singer was like, how do I call him? Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment, which we just finished in our book club, is a billionaire who he never chased money. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but he chased peace. He chased meditation. He chased feeling grounded. And he chased bliss. And because he chased these energies and these pure intentions, money chased him. That was my takeaway. The movie is called Boiler Room. In 2000 with Vin Diesel, it's called Boiler Room. You want to look at how the old dinosaurs used to make money, watch Boiler Room. It's actually brilliant, but it has absolutely no fucking integrity. The whole movie has zero integrity. It's all about money. It's not about, what do? I just posted my cats, and I put, cats are not the only ones with 9 lives. Make it happen. And what that meant, and what I meant by that, and it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, right? But what I meant by that is you can have as many life experiences as you want in one incarnation. You're not limited to Joe Blow living in Spokane, Washington, in one incarnation. You're not limited to Joe Blow living in Spokane, Washington, or wherever the fuck you want. For the entirety, you can fucking go, travel. You can do things. You can do things on very little money and now with social media, you can actually share it with the world, and you could go viral and suddenly, earn $1 million in 1 year. And why is that a goal? It's not a goal. It's a gift from the universe going, here's money. You traveled everywhere. There was this little village in Africa, or this little village in Japan, where there were some elderly people that could use maybe $100,000 donation or $20,000 donation for X, Y, and Z. And so you go back and you donate that money, and you get involved, and you help the Japanese villagers who are elderly, a particular village that maybe needed an MRI machine in their little hospital or whatever, right? Or a fibrillator or whatever, right? And that's the mindset of the new millionaire. That's the consciousness of the new millionaire. And many of you may see that literally become your reality, but you're not going to have that happen if you continue choosing fear and rumination and toxic negative loops, and refuse to do a mantra because you don't believe it works, number one. And when I mean by a mantra, I don't mean affirmations, I mean Sanskrit. Or you're so stuck in your religion, God bless you with that one, but you're so stuck in a religion that is either 1,500 years old or 2,000 years old at most, when there were religions that were thriving 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. And if you believe in reincarnation, that you worshipped. So to have a religion control you from learning Sanskrit, to then chant this mathematical language to deprogram yourself from the 3D programming, is insane to me. But you have a choice. And at some point, you're going to have to look at people who are writing books and touring the world and sharing their knowledge. Dr. Joe Dispenza is not the only one, though I adore him. And people are talking shit about him now because, let's go talk shit about him with all the work and some of the, and people don't even realize the massive breakthroughs that he was directly involved with in the concept of mapping the brain during meditation. He was the instigator because it was very kicking cans across the street before he came into that scene. And that's the truth. So Dr. Weil on breathing, James Nestor on breathing. Now everyone's like, putting tape over their mouth because of James Nestor's breath. The book, yellow cover. There's so many writers. I don't even want to. They've all come in with their incredible influences from Clarissa Pinkola Estes on Carl Jung's psychology archetype, in writing the book that changed my life and changed every woman who's ever read that book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. And my twin, a very masculine alpha male, read it cover to cover because he wanted to understand me. When a man loves you, he will read what you read because he wants to know you. And when you love a man, you will read what he's reading because you want to understand him. You want to understand what turns him on. Just like he wants to understand what turns you on mentally. And eventually you share books, you read out loud to yourself, to your beloved. If that's not a habit, then I suggest you start developing that habit. The monkey mind, left untrained, enslaves your soul into the worst conditions. And you and I have experienced these worst conditions time after time in multiple incarnations. And so in this incarnation, we have the opportunity to ascend. The ascension is not a fairy tale. The ascension is not some bubblegum fantasy of me riding my unicorn through, Fifth Avenue to go shopping for some Prada boots. No. Ascension is a conscious shift. It's a mindset. It's an opportunity. You're not going to get all the answers of the 10,000 or 500,000 incarnations or millions of incarnations that brought you to this moment. But you will have enough. I love that. You'll have enough knowledge. Somatic healing. Somatic healing is something that you can't even articulate quite often. Somatic healing is laying on Pachamama, Mother Earth, Gaia Bhumi, in the summer, if you're lucky, nude, or in your swimsuit, or in clothes, whatever, on your blanket, and you're laying there asking for the earth and the sky and God and angels and whatever to heal you, and out of nowhere you start sobbing, or you fall asleep in a deep nap, and you wake up and you're shocked that you've napped for 2 hours, safely, unmolested by anything. These things, these experiences, these purgings, these releases, massive healing are coming. But within it are worlds upon worlds upon worlds of experiences that you will never fully see. And you don't have to see it all to heal. And the final healing will be the shedding of this body. The final sigh of, oh my God, I get it. Oh my God. But at least you'll be so far away from ever experiences amnesia ever again that you will never be a match to 3D planet Earth ever again. When you return to this planet, because I know I fucking will, because I want to, it will be in the 560 frequency. The last time it was at that level of heightened consciousness was before, way, way, way before Atlantis was on the brink of falling. And they're telling me to tell you about Atlantis when it fell. I was talking to my friend, and I will keep her private because I don't want to bring her name on. When it began to fall, the factions. So, in my meditation yesterday, I was playing an exercise. I won't go into details, but the crystal temples were of high crystals, quartz. They were thick, like 3 foot thick. You know what I mean? And they were clear crystal quartz, prismatic, or inclusion. You know, there was inclusions, or smoky quartz. And these temples had high slits, rectangular, long slits for windows. And we could see out into the ocean, into the bay, into the forest or whatever, the lakes and so forth. And it looked like a watercolor, right? Like blotted paint. And we could see the movement of people, but it looked like watercolor and movement. And they could never see in. And there we would do psychic surgeries, and we would sit in meditations. We'd be separated by 2 hands. In other words, 2 arms outstretched. So there was massive space between us. Men and women, we would sit in meditation for the collective. There was no hierarchy. The ones who created the bulls and the fish and the bread and the wheat and the fruit and the weaving of the cloth and all of that were as important as we were as high priests and priestesses. There's so much I could tell you, but the factions of evil had been influenced by the Anunnaki. And the problem is that because they were as powerful as we were, it became a détente, which means there was a collusion, a clashing of equal powers. Yeah, sometimes good doesn't win, because power is power. And the beginning of the feeling of what was going to happen was a trembling beneath our feet. Mother Earth was shaking. And there was cracks going into the earth. And the sky had been a perfect blue, and suddenly there were clouds, and the ocean was gray, with white foams, with yellow. And there were people screaming and running because the earth now started to shake us against walls and threw us to the floor. Massive earthquakes. And ships were coming. Andromedans and Lyrans were coming to airlift as many as they could, but you see the continent was tip to tip from the northern part of America all the way to Europe. That was one continent. And so we couldn't save everyone. And so there was a triage. It was necessary. And certain people were airlifted because they had been trained, especially the ones that were teenagers, the young ones. We airlifted them first because they had been trained to be high priestesses and priests, and they had the knowledge, they carried it. In the first collapse, there was an incredible sense of failure because there was a sense that we should have been more proactive before it came to that point, but it was too late to start second guessing everything. And so to get people to migrate out was important. And the ancient ones, the elder priests and priestesses and the warriors, the shamanic warriors and others on that level stayed behind. Stayed behind to keep the energy, to hold sacred space for those who were going to drop their bodies. And the first landing of the Atlanteans who survived were in North America. They came, and there is a history of the Hopis and the Cherokees and I think the Chippewa, who have a memory of blonde and red-haired warriors who were very advanced. Those were not Vikings. Those were the Atlanteans. The other realms were in Africa and Ireland, the Celtic Isles, Northern Europe. When I say northern, I mean France. France. The Gauls, the Celts. They were in that region. And and Egypt, of course. Of course, Egypt. But surprisingly, not India. And you might disagree with me, but that was my download. Not India. Not at first, and not China. Not Japan. Not at first. This was a second wave. So, my point, and there's so much more to share, but my point is that I feel as if this history that was buried created a sense of such sadness in all of us that we didn't feel deserving of winning anymore. Because the one most important act was to have won our people into a safe situation, and instead, most perished. Not because we ignored the danger, but we were naive then. And so, to manifest your abundance, you're going to have to realize that you have to forgive yourself across timelines. And I did a soul retrieval meditation moment, if you will, where I brought pieces of my soul from that timeline back into me to recalibrate myself, to give me even more strength, and to realize that I was not going to sugarcoat and not going to sit on some of the knowledge that I think is sacred, but clearly has to be shared publicly so that people can learn how to manifest the magic and the kind of lives they deserve so that they also can stand in their power to guide and mentor and heal others. The more of us who shine bright, the light will be so bright that the dark will no longer have a hold on this planet. And I believe that. I think that one of the problems that we had in those days was that we were naive. We didn't believe, and in fact, many of you are still naive. You don't understand why people can be so cruel to animals, or you don't understand why people can be so cruel or greedy. You can't wrap your head, and you actually ruminate over that as if it's worth your time to ruminate. It's not worth your time. Just know that such evil actually exists and it enjoys it. That's it. That's all you have to know. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to fucking try to articulate it. You don't have to try to you don't do any of that shit. Just be a light that is so bright that it attracts of like, so that those who are lost, you can be that lighthouse in the storm. That's going to be really important. And so your success in the material world is important. Why? Because it gives you the time to do what you need to do to help others. Whatever your mission is for yourself. Whatever turns you on, whether it's writing a book, whether it's speaking, whether it's just creating communities, creating straw bale houses or earth ships, or I don't know, whatever. Doesn't matter. But what matters is that you no longer play small. You no longer have a weird idea about money is dirty and it's the root of all evil. Ask yourself, what could I do with this money? How could I help 20 families today? How could I help? How could I donate? How can I make this area I live in better? Right? There was a man, I called him the Angel of Methuen. I'm going to tell you the story. Methuen, Massachusetts. I think this was like 25 years ago. I kid you not. So in Methuen, Massachusetts was a man, a very elderly man. I think he was in his late 60s, early 70s. And he had a textile mill. And it burned to the fucking ground. And all of Methuen needed that job. And so the insurance paid, and he could have actually retired and taken the money and gone to the Bahamas, picked up some bimbos, and he would have been a happy man. But no, that's not what he did. He took part of the insurance money to build back the textile mill and kept everyone on their salary, on the payroll, while that textile mill was being built. And a journalist asked him, why are you doing this? You could retire. You've done a lot. And he said, because I'm responsible. Because these people rely on me. Because they have been loyal to me. And they have worked long hours. And they need this job. And who am I to take this money and enjoy when these people need this? So I'm building the factory back. And they'll be back at work within a year. And they are on their salary. And that's just how it's going to be. So I called him the Angel of Methuen. We've always had good people, right? Throughout the centuries, scattered amongst the assholes. You had Thomas Edison, an asshole, and you had Nicholas Tesla, who died impoverished. They destroyed him. The 1%. He wanted to give free energy, and Edison did not. So now we have more people like us who are willing to realize that money is a tool to give us time, to spend time with our loved ones, to connect with the earth, to meditate, to heal, to sob, to rock our tears away, to laugh, and then to rise from our knees and then help others rise off their knees as well. Money's not evil. Money has never been evil. People are evil. People who have used money to harm, subjugate others. Money's neutral. Just like the knife I have in my hand is neutral. I can use it to peel an orange or to harm someone. The knife is neutral. It's me that decides what to do with that tool. And money is a tool. So, and I'm saying all this because I've learned over the years, speaking to spiritual people, that they are revolted by money and they reject money and cling to their poverty as if it's a banner of honor, and it's not. It's not. Because what you've allowed in doing that is you've allowed the 1% to accrue the lion's share when maybe you were supposed to have 10 or 20 or $100 million. But because you decided that money is evil and it's so nasty and you don't need it and you don't care about it, that you didn't realize that in having $100 million, you could probably do incredible work with half of it, and you would. Your consciousness would do that with that money. And then you'd roll money back to 100, and you do more donations, more work. And I don't mean to charities. I mean you'd roll your sleeves up. And that's my point. So there's nothing wrong with being abundant. There's nothing wrong with having a wonderful life. And then help making sure that as many people on the planet can experience what you've experienced. But as long as you have a poverty mindset, you're actually fucking over the collective. And if you can start actually thinking of it in those terms, saying, wow, if I'm successful, I can help 100 people. I could help 1,000 people. Holy shit, I'm doing this. I want to win. Whatever it takes, do it. Okay? So let me see if you have any questions or comments. I hope this helps. Let me see here. Yes, okay. Does anybody want to join the Starseeds Awakening? I'm just wondering. If you want to join the Starseeds Awakening, let me know by just hitting me up on a message. And I'll need your phone number and your real name, and then I'll put you on Telegram. We have an amazing group. All right, so I'm going to let you go. It's late. I need to go to bed. It's ridiculous. I'm always up this late. It's insane. Sending you much love. I'll upload this video. Hopefully it helped. I'm hoping also to have our Sacred Divine Masculines on a live either tomorrow or Saturday. I'll put a little announcement so you guys can see when. All right? Sending you much love on your journey. Namaste. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.